Alright, what's up guys? So, the video you're about to see, it was supposed to be a how-to video, but this throttle body that I was rebuilding was probably one of the worst throttle bodies I could use as an example. So, in theory it still is a how-to, but I ran into a lot of problems and things didn't go the way they were supposed to. So this is more of a video for your viewing pleasure rather than a how-to, but you can still follow this and rebuild a 2G throttle body if you need to. But I will make another one with better directions and instructions, and close-up videos or close-up angles and stuff. But yeah, this was not fun, but nonetheless, enjoy. What's up guys, another tutorial here. This is going to be another how to rebuild throttle body. This is for the clips. This will be a little bit more in-depth than my last video of the Evo throttle body, because the kit that I actually purchased comes with a lot more things than the other rebuild kit. Well, not necessarily rebuild kit, just more of the throttle body shaft seals that I replaced. So another just basic how-to. We are gonna pretty much replace the shaft seals. We're gonna replace the ISC seal, O-ring, and a bunch of bolts as well. So stay tuned and we'll see how it goes. Alright, so the first thing we're going to want to do before we start taking anything apart is we want to start marking things, particularly the TPS and the, what is this? This is the throttle body cable tensioner spring. So in my last rebuild, I actually had a problem where I marked this with a Sharpie, and everything was fine until I cleaned it. And what I didn't realize, that when I actually cleaned the throttle body, I actually cleaned off my markings from where I had marked. So what I did is I went ahead and actually, like with a flat edge or something, I just went ahead and marked the TPS, kind of scratched it so I knew where it was located. So when I do clean this, I will still know where it was last left. So that's that, but I will not be cleaning the spring, so I can go ahead and use a Sharpie and mark that. So once you get that done, you are green to start disassembling. So let's go ahead and start taking this apart and go from there. So, current problem I am dealing with, since this is such an old throttle body, we have you know, wear and tear on it and corrosion, and of course stripped bolts. So trying to figure out how am I gonna get that bolt out. Not stripped, yeah, I guess stripped. And then all my flatheads fit in, but they cannot move it, so I shall have to do some brainstorming and figure out how I'm gonna get this off. I might end up cutting it so it can just be the threads, and I can pull this out and then pull it out with like a vise or something. But I'll be right back as I get going on this. Okay, so yeah, it ended up being so stripped that I couldn't get any screwdriver in there to take it out. So what it ended up doing is I got one of those like vibrating tools that just do this motion back and forth, and I just swiped the head off and I was able to pull it out, and with the vise I was able to get the actual bolt that was still threaded in here, and just with vice grips I mean, and pull it back, that sucker out. So now we have that apart, and it's a good time, good thing I actually took this apart to get rebuilt, because it is quite filthy. Okay, so that's that, and let's continue on taking this apart. Before you take this plate off, it's actually a good idea to mark it so you know what goes to the front of the throttle body and what goes to the rear. If you want, mine already has some symbols in there. I'm not sure if you can see that. Anyway, they're in there, but I'm just for safety sakes, I'm gonna get a Sharpie and mark this front. So now we know when I go put this back that goes there. And there we have it. This is the bare throttle body. So you can go ahead and either try to fight it with a screwdriver and pry these throttle body seals out, or you can do what I found very helpful the last time I did this with Evo. Is you actually stick a socket in here for, let's see if this works. I'm just guessing with the sizes that I have right now. Yep, perfect. Okay, so a 1/4 socket will actually get these seals out with ease, instead of scraping around and fighting it. So you do that to both sides. Voila, easy does it, and there she goes. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video, gonna get all this crap cleaned up, and we'll catch up where we left off last. Alright, so I've finished cleaning up everything that I wanted to clean up. Now we can go ahead and start reassembling. First things first, I also bought myself a FIVA, or FIAV block off plate. So I will be installing that along with the throttle body rebuild kit that I got from, who did I get it from? Some guy off DSM Tuners. I'll put a link in the description down below. What's cool about this is that it comes with all new bolts, every gasket needed, and a new bis screw. So this is pretty much a total rebuild kit for these throttle bodies. So I really like these. I think this was $50 shipped, and it's pretty much all inclusive. So let's go ahead and get this bolted up and then go from there. Okay, so little problem. Since I installed the FIVA, the FIAV plate, the bolts that were supplied by the rebuilder are not long enough to accommodate this that extra, plate. So I was able to get most of those threaded in, but those last two holes I cannot get a bolt through. So I'm gonna have to go to the hardware store, source these Allen bolts, and get them a little bit longer. But other than that, let's go ahead and keep on going with the ISC. So there you have that. And now we can actually go ahead and move into the throttle body seals. Here they are. So same thing as this, just lube them up before you apply them. Apply. And I actually do remember that these are directional, so let me go find that out before I put these in. Okay, so pretty much the full cover face is the one that's going to be sticking out of the throttle body, so you want to insert that. As so, I'm going to go ahead and use the socket method again. There you go. And then go ahead and repeat on the other side. And now insert the half shell. Okay, screw everything. I stopped recording. Things were just getting way too hectic, so I finished this off camera. As you could have seen in the video, I was trying to tap in those seals, but those seals were too hard for some reason, so I ended up kind of stripping them, tapping them in. I do not recommend tapping those seals in with a flathead. Get something like a washer and then push it in with a socket. I was using too small of a socket, so that didn't work either. So I ended up getting new seals, and I put those in, and everything went swell after that. But then I had issues with this freaking throttle body plate, because it's not like the Evos, where the Evos, what do? They're bolted on to this shaft seal. I mean, the shaft. Well, in this case, it actually goes through the shaft. So I didn't know that going into it. So I had to fight this the whole time, trying to figure out which way it went back. Well, I figured that out finally, and that took way longer than expected. But that was finished. And then you had to set the spring tension back. I don't know if you can see it, but that mark is still there. I cleaned everything up after I finished, so that kind of went away. And then we have the new bolts for the TPS. And remember how I told you, since I added this FIVA block off bypass plate, that the bolts that the kit came with were too short. They would only get like 2 or 3 threads, and they would strip. As you can see here, it looks good there, but when you put it in, it barely gets anything. So I ended up going to Home Depot, and there was 2 options. They had these bolts in 40 millimeters and 50 millimeters. Here are the bolts in case you go this route, the part numbers. I tried the 50 millimeter first, since I thought that would probably be best, but when I put that in, it was too big. So I recommend using the 40 millimeter. And as you can see size difference. This is significantly bigger. So I went ahead and bought 2 of each because they were like 40 cents each, so I really didn't care about the price. But this is the one that works better. You can see there's a lot more thread that's needed for that bypass plate. And then let me just go ahead and put the last bolt in, and this is officially complete. So I already put one of them in there. You can see it comes out right there, which is perfect because that's pretty much all the threads and some. So I won't be having any problems stripping things there. And you just can go ahead and do the same here. Even at the last bolt, this throttle body just freaking hates me. So I understand why they use I don't have any of the old bolts, but like screwdriver bolts, I guess, you know, the ones where you actually need a screwdriver or flathead to take them off, or these Allen bolts. It's because in areas like here and here, you cannot fit a socket to tighten those. So you either need a screwdriver or an Allen key like these bolts. So I didn't think of that when I bought these. So I got this one in fairly easy, but when it came to this one, I was using a little wrench and I was getting by, but I reached the bottom of the threads and it still wasn't fully closed, so I ended up using double washers to get that one to thread in. But it's freaking done. Like, I'm like so pissed off at this throttle body, but everything's there. So that's how you do it. Do as I say, not what I do, because this is not easy. I don't know, like Evos are so much easier than these freaking DSM throttle bodies. But the gist of it was, mark the TPS, mark the springs before you take off anything. Then you take off the TPS, take off the plate there, take off this bolt, pull the springs out, and then you unbolt these 2 screws, pull out the throttle body plate, pull out the shaft, and then pop out the seals, the shaft seals with the, I believe it was a 1/4 socket, both sides. Lube up the new seals, use like a washer and a flathead, a bottom of a socket, a bottom of a wrench, not a wrench, a bottom of a screwdriver, place the socket on top of the washer. Oh my goodness, place the socket on top of the seal and then push it in gently, not hard like I did, and break 2 of the seals. And then slide the shaft back in, set the tension back on the spring, put that plate back with a TPS, and then bolt everything back up together. And then make sure you put Loctite on these screws, because there's been incidents where the vibration created by the motor backs these screws out, motor sucks in the screw,
and then bad times for whatever piston eats that up. And if you're doing this FIVA, whatever block off plate, bypass plate that I did, anticipate using different screws than what you have. I don't know what sorry about that. I don't know what people do actually when they put these bypass plates, because the kit that I bought, or the plate that I bought, actually came with these really tiny ones right there. I'll just show you these, and I don't know what they wanted me to do with these, because these don't thread anything. I think these screws are meant for the block off plate, where you completely remove this, so it just bolts that to that, and that would solve that. But for the most part, I got to use 3 of the original bolts, but these 2 I had to source elsewhere. But that's the gist of it. Sorry it wasn't a really good video, but dude, like, screw this thing, man. This was not fun. Alright guys, have a good one, and I'll keep you updated.